What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. My guest today is Todd Anderson. He is the founder of Dream Recovery. We talk about high-level sports recovery, of course. We talk about sleep, the do's and don'ts, everything you need to know about what is happening to your brain while you are trying to snooze. Enjoy the episode. Talk about missing your demographic.
Yeah, marketing 101.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, there is really something to say, though, that whole reverse marketing scheme doesn't always go the way, because people like us, we're always like, oh, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Who would ever? Well, I mean, look what Nike did with, the one, and that came back positive for them as far as, the stocks and their portfolio is concerned. So
it's because Nike writes the book on marketing, but I think it was a little less polarizing. I think clearly
you think?
No, I don't mean polarizing from a population, but as far as knowing your demographic and who's drinking your product, more polarizing in their demographic.
For sure. Are we talking about Kaepernick? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, because you're right. At least half the population watching Kaepernick agreed with the fact that he was kneeling with, maybe not half, but a certain percentage of them agreed with the fact that he was kneeling.
And I think Nike knew that as people start to understand a little more, people will probably come around more.
Mm-hmm.
Where, man, that was a hard no.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
now,
saw their marketing.
Were you playing in the league when that was going on?
No, that was right after me.
Right after. Oh, interesting. Okay, so what?
I'm glad, because that would have been uncomfortable.
I want to keep going on this though, because I'm very fascinated about it.
Yeah.
How long was that time frame where you had, the controversy surrounding the flag, the anthem, the kneeling? I mean, how long was that? It seems like it was so long ago, but it wasn't just over and done with immediately. It felt like it lingered for a few.
I think it was almost like a calendar
seasons.
Year, maybe.
Yeah.
To another season. Yeah.
Like a season and a half.
I think what was hard with it is everyone only has their own perspective. And people need to understand that. And I think that one of the biggest problems with society, and this is really deep to start off with, but people can't seem to shift their perspective and try to see things through other shoes. And so, if people just tried to understand where they were coming from, where he was coming from, where people were speaking out were coming from, I think they would at least be able to understand and follow the thought process. But it's just, anger out of the gate. And, when you look at actually how that unfolded, he went to an Army Ranger who was a former player. The first game he did it, he just sat on the bench. And then he went to an Army Ranger and said, I want to be respectful. I want to, respect the country, respect our veterans, all this stuff. What do you think I should do? And the Ranger told him to take a knee because that's a sign of respect, but also, it's a show of protest.
Yeah.
So you have this veteran telling him to do that. And he went out of his way to make sure he was being respectful.
Sure.
And I mean, that's what makes America, an amazing place, is be able to speak up and voice your opinion and have opinions and change things. So
yeah.
I just think that people need to see both sides of the story,
and
one way or the other.
Yeah, whether or not you agree with it, it seems like everybody sort of just forgets that the right to free speech means somebody can say something I don't like, and if I don't like that the free speech that it extends to them, well, then you really don't believe in it the way that it was meant to be believed.
Yeah, and I think both sides are equally as.
Oh yeah, it was very polarizing.
100%.
I mean, you had.
Looking back on it, I was like, "Oh my goodness, we spent how many years fighting over that?"
So insignificant.
Especially now, I'm like, well, we got real problems.
Yeah, what happened right after that?
Can we go back to that, please?
That seems
we were all
that
so
seems
mad.
Way better to deal with. I feel like though 90% of the United States is in the middle.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
And just those last 5 on each side are very loud.
They're the loudest.
But the problem is with social media, the loudest, that's all you see 24/7.
Yeah, no, the algorithms, they got us.
Yeah. Not just social media, media in general, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or life. They're usually loud.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah.
He who knows the least knows it the loudest.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And on social media, I mean, I do think, though, especially on a platform like Twitter, pre-Elon, you've got a real small group of people controlling one of the biggest media outlets in the universe.
Crazy.
And leaning it only toward one way. I mean, it seemed pretty evident that let's use the kneeling thing, all of social media agreed with him and banned anyone who said that was wrong or disrespectful.
Yeah, it's crazy. Elon said the other day they have 20% of their staff that they had.
Seriously?
20%.
Why does that make me so happy?
And he was like, it turns out when you're not trying to censor everything, you can eliminate a lot of people.
Well, that must have been, think about how much time that took to go through the world and censor people with different ideas.
And you could have as many people as you want, it doesn't make that job easier. It's not like a staffing problem. It's just actually like, how do you do it? You know, how do you can't go through every single thing. And then where do you draw the line? How are things interpreted? Like, it's a problem that can't be solved, and it shouldn't be solved, I don't think.
They had apparently there's a court case going through in Massachusetts, Dr. Shiva, where he uncovered, because he did a political campaign, and he uncovered where there was a backdoor from the U.S. government into Twitter.
There was, yeah.
And so a lot of it
100%.
isn't just Twitter making those calls. It's the government calling it in, and then them complying with those.
And then what
calls.
do you do?
Yeah.
If you're Twitter, you're like,
yeah.
This started in a whole different direction. I've never talked about this stuff. We're usually like in the protein intake.
Isn't it? You're right. Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how I just watched something that all this will make sense? Isn't it crazy how when authority comes from above, how easily people will just sort of dismiss their participation in any sort of thing? Like, hey, man, I just did what... Hey, the guy said he was from the FBI. Like, what am I going to do? Yeah. Not censor this?
I think that's our generation, though, because my mom's an elementary principal.
Mm-hmm.
And with social media out there, like, kids know, like, a teacher really can't do something to you.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes down to it, the parent has to discipline the kid.
Right.
And the kid's like, what are you going to do about it? Whereas us, if the principal walked by, you'd be like, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't want to mess up.
Sit straight and don't.
So I think there's change coming because the younger generations know kind of... I don't think they're scared to question authority, for better or for worse. Like, there's a lot of advantages to people kind of snapping into place, like you said, and not questioning authority, especially in the social structure. But also, you know, there's times where you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
Of course.
and understanding when but something happened, because like you said, like your mom's generation, certainly like my grandpa's generation, it did not seem like they would just lay down and let this kind of thing happen.
No.
But it seems like it's happening a lot to our generation. I could say how old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, yeah, we're all the same. Are you the oldest one here?
I'm the oldest one.
That's great.
38.
Yeah, we're all 32, 34, 38. Our generation.
Yeah.
What are we, by the way? We're millennials.
Yeah.
We're millennials. Yeah.
Millennial,
You're
yeah.
not. What are you?
I'm like the next one.
The next one?
I turn 25
Is
next
that
week.
Gen Z?
You missed
I
it just
think
barely.
so. I'm not proud of it,
Well,
but
you got the Gymshark on. That makes sense.
I didn't plan that. Okay, it just happened. He's wearing Gymshark too. Call him out.
But
I'm
he's
wearing it
older.
better.
He's older. He's trying to stay
Okay,
young.
he's
Makes
wiser.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does seem like there's been this sort of a saturation of free thought that maybe it kind of goes away and then comes back, because it does feel like the people beneath our generation are kind of a little bit more alert.
Absolutely.
And
It's probably a lot like a pendulum, you know?
things
Go
that just sort of swing back and forth.
Freedom, totalitarianism, freedom, back and
so.
forth. Yeah.
You hope.
I hope it doesn't swing too far.
Yeah.
We're
Hope
kind
it swings back.
We're kind of swung. Like, it feels like we really need to swing the other
You
way.
think you are until it gets to here, and then you look back like you did when we were just talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
perspective changes real fast. So
Oh, it is.
we'll see
It
where
is so
goes.
funny. Because before that was the worst thing going on at the time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've never started a podcast just going straight into that either. Let's shift gears a little bit here, though, man. I wanna hear about you. What I like to do is just give the guests the opportunity to kind of give us a 30,000-foot view on what you're doing. You've got some exciting companies, some great stuff coming out of fitness. You started with the NFL, but maybe even take us a little bit before that. Give us a rundown.
Yeah, so I mean, I think everything kind of aligned when I was a kid. So I was overweight as a kid. When I was a kid, I dreaded pool parties. Like the summer was the worst time of the year. Well, I loved baseball, but in the summer, I hated having my shirt off. I was insecure. I was overweight, and that really pushed me into like weightlifting and getting in shape and eating better. So I think that pretty much shaped the rest of my life, is the way things panned out, because in high school, I started lifting like pretty intensely as a freshman and started to see some change.
Heck yeah.
And getting stronger. And then all of a sudden I started looking a little better. And over those, 3-4 years, my dad was a teacher there as well. And so I used to get the key from him going before school by myself. Like, I'm turning off the alarm code at the school.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
That's great.
And lifting. And by the time I was a senior, I like completely transformed myself. And I was able to walk on at Michigan State. So I walked down at Michigan State. Yeah.
What position?
I was fullback.
That's
Yeah,
outstanding.
so
How tall are you?
I'm like 6'3".
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
pretty
gonna say
tall.
you're pretty
I
tall.
was like 265 too as a fullback.
As
I was big.
a senior in high school?
No, I was like 220 as a senior. I was
Oh,
265
still.
by the time I left.
So you put in 40 pounds.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome,
mean, that's
though.
where I got all my confidence with the weight room. So I went from walking on to being a starter, and I always had that chip on my shoulder. Like I say I live with that walk on mentality because as a walk on, every day you feel like you have to prove that why you're there. You have to prove that you deserve a spot on the team.
Uh-huh.
And so there's not a day that you can just slack off or take off. Scholarship guys, they're there. The university's made a commitment. There's a reason they're there. There's some safety there.
There's a monetary amount.
Yeah. As a walk-on, like every opportunity you get, you got to make the most of it. So I think that chip kind of is carried over. And, I try to do that with all the opportunities that I get.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
That's great. So did you come from an athletic background? Your dad, do you have brothers,
No.
sisters?
Only child.
Only child, okay.
My mom, I think she played tennis for like 4 days. So, and then my dad had an athletic background, but he has these health issues where he sweats when it's cold and he can't sweat when it's hot. So it made it really hard for him to play sports. So he was a coach my whole life, but he was a huge Michigan State fan. Went to Michigan State. Like he loved Michigan State football so much, he helped send out recruiting letters in the offices to all like the incoming recruits. And
That's
never
great.
would have dreamed that I would end up playing there. So.
Oh, wow.
You didn't really have a choice at that point.
You're right.
Well, I mean, I didn't think I'd even have an option to walk on. To be honest with you, it wasn't even in the perspective. It was spring of my senior year of high school, and I was going to go to a Division III school and play football. I had no offers, nothing, not even Division II offer. All of a sudden, Michigan State's offensive coordinator walks into our high school, and I go to a tiny high school. Like we didn't even have a McDonald's. We had a blinking red light, no fast food.
Wow.
So I get called on the office, and I'm like, what? Like this guy bought this Michigan State shirt at Walmart or something because like, there's no way.
He's the actual guy from.
So it turned out like backing up, like I played offensive line because I was overweight, and I just stuck with that. But I got really athletic my senior year because I put all this work in.
Yeah.
We didn't have a tight end show up to 7-on-7. We were playing the biggest high school in the area in summer. So just kind of messed around. They're like, hey, jump in there.
Yeah.
Tight end.
Summer ball.
Made a couple one-hand catches, made some plays. Their head coach saw me. Michigan State went there because they've had some huge recruits. And they were like, he told them, like, if you're looking for some walk-ons, go talk to Todd Anderson out at Napoleon High School. So he showed up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it became like, do I go to Division III or do I take a chance and
Risk it.
and I had no reason being there. Like when I showed up, like I was horrible. I was the worst player on the team. I wanted to quit the fourth day. I mean, it was so bad, but I'm glad I didn't. I think that's been like a mantra of my whole life. It's like when you kind of thrust yourself into a situation or being around people that elevate you and challenge you in different ways, it's going to suck. But eventually when you push through it, you'll just become acclimated. You'll be one of those people.
Yeah.
So if you keep,
Who would you say did that for you the most when you walked on? Challenged you and actually pushed you in maybe even either a negative or a positive way?
Trying to think specifically. I remember, we had a running back, J.U. Colcrick, who was just like, he was 260 pounds, super charismatic, great leader. And I don't know if he necessarily, I could never compare myself to him, but just the way that he carried himself and his story, he has a crazy story. He came over from like near the Middle East and he, it's just wild. It was wild. His dad got assassinated. This whole thing.
What?
Yeah, he was like in the politics. It's wild.
Yeah. Wow.
And anyways, this way he conducted himself and the way he led and just his size and stature, I was like, I have a lot of work to do. Like that's what a Division I football player looks like, not what I look like.
And when you got to Michigan, were you competing for his job? Did you want to be the running back?
No. So I was at the time I was a linebacker. So eventually, I would switch over and play a similar position. But
yeah,
at the time, no. And there was no competing for anything. Let's be clear. I was just hanging on by dear life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How does that process actually unfold though? I mean, is it like a day by day you may get cut? Like
no,
or is it?
I mean, you have to really mess up. It's essentially like in the beginning they tell you that you're going to have a spot.
That's awesome.
And you just kind of like not mess it up. But then every season, from fall to spring, they kind of reassess things. They might bring in different guys. They bring in different scholarship players. So you're never settled. But after that spring, I felt comfortable. Like I knew I could play at that point. I played really well that following spring, had some opportunities. And at that point, I knew I was going to be on the team. But now it was like, all right, I got to play.
Yeah. Did you play 4 years?
No. So, I mean, it was a journey, man. My first year, I was going to play, probably get a full ride. In football, it's either nothing or a full ride. There's no in between Division I football.
Got it. Yeah.
So like a week out of camp, I pulled my quad in summer conditioning. No big deal. 3 days before camp, get out of the shower, slip in like a hurdle stretch position, and just snap my like quad.
No.
I mean, you can still see it. I don't know if you see, that's my quad. Like,
Don't pass
Oh my
out.
gosh.
yeah. It's pretty gnarly. It's like a softball in there. So 3 days out, and I'm like, it was bad. And you know, we have our conditioning test first day of camp, which is it's like 20 half gassers, we call it. So across the field and back sprint, and you have a 35-second rest, and you have to hit certain times. And I'm like, I'm about to get a full ride. Like I can't not play. So I ran all 20. So
With a torn, what was it?
So
The medialis or the laterals?
rectus.
Oh my gosh!
So
really?
but the good thing was, right, the rectus is the only one that crosses the knee and the hip. So what I was able to do for the run is, if I went into a little hip flexion, bent over, it would alleviate the tension on my rectus.
Did you tell anyone that this was happening?
Well, I tried. No, I intentionally didn't, because I was like, I don't want them to know. Finished all 20, made the test. Next day, woke up and my leg was black and blue.
Oh, I can imagine.
Like,
I can't even
disgusting. Like they were like they bought Normatec boots before they were Normatec boots, because they were freaked out about blood clots, and they were like this like medical grade device, because they'd never seen like bruising like that from a pulled muscle.
And it was just a pull. It didn't tear off the bone. It was
No,
just...
so that's what's unique. It's a mid-substance tear, which is super rare, right? So right in the middle of the muscle. They don't know why. Probably because it was like I fell and it was so fast, and
just the wrong way you landed.
So the problem is when it tears off the bone, it's almost better because you can anchor it back to the bone. When it's mid-substance, what are you going to do? You're going to suture it back together and hope it heals to itself. There's nothing to anchor it. Like that's pretty much all a surgeon can do, is anchor things back to bone. They can't really do soft tissue work.
Yeah, not
so
yet.
I've seen a lot of doctors, and they're like, they did the right thing by not operating on it. But it took a long time to heal. That was my first year. Next year, come back. You know, I'm second string, alternating with the first string guys. Take a step like a week out from the first game, and just feel like this sharp pain in my knee. Didn't know what was going on. Got worse the next couple of days, and ended up having like I broke off a chunk of cartilage on my femur and a little bone chunk, and that's what I just had taken out the other day, because it got. I don't know, it was lodged. It was stuck somewhere. They couldn't.
You
find
just had it removed.
Yeah, because it was stuck somewhere. They didn't affect it for like 10 years, and then I started training for marathon. It got unlodged, and then they went in and took out this chunk of bone.
Oh, how fun!
Super fun. But so that happened, and then I was out for like 6 months, and then I didn't think I'd be able to come back. I remember telling Kirk Cousins, who was our quarterback, like, dude, I think I'm done, man. I can't. Like, my knee is killing me. I'm like, I'm gonna give it one more shot in spring practice, and I hit somebody, and my knee just like boom, like cracked, and I was like, oh, here we go, like that, it's gonna be horrible. Yeah, it was okay. Woke up the next day like completely pain free. Okay, so I don't know. Looking back now after having that last surgery, like, was that chunk of bone lodged in a really bad place, and then when I hit the person, it went somewhere a lot better. Yeah,
I can't.
That's what they think.
I can't think of a single situation where that has happened, and it's been good.
Nuts.
It's like that's usually
I know, like, I
a
was
career
like,
ender.
We went to like warm up the next day, and I was like cringing. I was like, please, like, this is gonna be so bad. And then I started warming up, and it felt great, and I was like, wait, this is crazy. So yeah,
great, man.
Finally stepped on the field. Like, I remember that when I had surgery the day before our first game. And it was the first. I still hadn't played yet. It's my third year. Yeah. Everyone from my hometown's like not thinking I'm good enough to play. I'm like, guys, I swear I'm good enough to play. And I remember, like, I was able to go to the game for warm-ups, but they were like, we can't have you on the sideline because, like, if you get hit, you're gonna mess up your knee. So I remember like crutching away from the stadium, hearing like the game that I'm supposed to be playing in. And like no one's around, because like I don't know if you've ever been outside of a stadium when the game's going on.
Yeah, it's like empty. Yeah, everyone's.
It was like a movie. It was super sad.
It's a wasteland of empty beer.
Yeah, I definitely cried. So it was sad.
Yeah.
How was it playing Michigan State games?
Oh, the best. I mean, we won every year. So I have a deep hatred for Michigan. People talk about Michigan, Ohio State, and I promise you, on the players, the field level, the intensity could not be higher, because, I mean, I'll go on a limb and say there's a definite arrogance with the University of Michigan. They literally, our freshman year, they won when I wasn't playing, redshirted.
Sure.
And they literally held up a sign that said "Still arrogant," and I was like, it's not like cool to be arrogant. I don't care which way you spin it, but
sure.
you know, a lot
In
of those.
football, it's very accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're, you know, we won all 4 years that I played. You know, we pretty much punished them, but it's an intense rivalry, and it's a cool thing to be a part of when you're on the right side of it. But a lot of disrespect. But I think that, you know, we always play with that chip on our shoulder, and that's the reason. Like, you know, mentally, I think we're in their head. You know, if you look back, there's been so many times over the last, especially 15 years, where they're ranked higher, they're supposed to be better, they have all these recruits, and you know, we always seem to bring it, and if we don't win, they're at least going to walk away limping.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Do you agree with the idea that in order to be a exceptional football player, you have to have a certain part of you that is angry?
Man, you know, I get my friend Tressa is she has her PhD in sports psychology, and I get into this argument with her all the time, and
Ooh,
her thing is
okay.
like, you know, very positivity based.
Sure.
And I couldn't play like that.
Couldn't play angry.
No, I couldn't play in a positive mindset. I was angry.
Got it.
And
yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
super calm, very happy, relaxed guy anywhere else. But I think when you're trying to inflict that much pain on somebody, there's no way to really do that at the intensity level that's needed to be good or elite in that setting without coming from a really dark place.
Yeah.
Like, you never hurt somebody. You never hope somebody gets hurt or injured, but in that moment, you're doing everything in your power to inflict pain on that person.
Yeah.
And I think mentally you have to get to a place that very few people get to in order to do so.
Yeah, that was explained to me when I was first because I never played. I went to a tiny little 1A. We didn't have football, and I'm honestly really happy that I didn't, because I never had an injury. I never had a knock on wood. I never had something like that.
Yeah.
But I actually got to train with a guy who trained NFL very early on. Ian Danny, does that name ring a bell?
No.
North Scottsdale. He does a lot of the big off season because everybody's here. During that time.
Is he at Exos, or is that different?
He's different. He owns his own place.
Got it.
So Exos is his primary competitor.
Got
he
it.
just moved to like Tempe, but I got to work with Jeff Charleston, James Harrison, the year he stole the Super Bowl from us. Fitzgerald. Oh, he is did you play? Because he's been in there so long. Was he there when you were
we
there?
never really crossed paths. So I was only there. I didn't play long at all. Like half a season.
Yeah, I crossed paths with him like every single day around like 1 p.m. He has, and I get it. I'm in the gym, which is, it's not game face mentality, but he is there to train. He's in that same thing.
Yeah, he takes it serious too.
He is
He's got that dog in him, like Dion
He still
says.
does, though. He's still posting stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I couldn't handle it. And I was 16 at the time, so I give myself a little slack. But I remember, like at one point, I was assigned to do something very small, run him through a W drill or something. And I just remember the guy was and I had done this for a couple summers. It wasn't like I'd never done it. And I'm just like, bro, I can't. No, you got to give him to somebody else. He's too much.
Yeah.
He's insane.
I was just with my buddy Benny Fowler. He played receiver. He won a Super Bowl. He actually caught Peyton's last pass ever.
Oh, that's
and
sick.
He still says, he played for like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. He still says James Harrison is the scariest player he's ever witnessed in real life.
He's the scariest person I've ever met.
It's crazy because he's not the biggest guy, you know, in relative to NFL.
No, but from the guys I saw training, the things he can do.
Exactly.
Still, with how strong he is, because he is not taller than me. He is 5'11" or 6 foot, maybe.
Right.
He's 265, maybe 270, but he's thick and he's mean. He's just mean. He was always angry.
Yeah.
But at one point, I remember when I tried to pass him off, and Ian was sort of the mentor of the. He's like, yeah, that's how it is, bro. This is what do you think these guys
100%.
do? This is what you have to have, and it did sort of click for me that a lot of them are obviously totally nice guys when they have that switch on and off, but some of the best ones, they may hold on to that switch a little bit longer, and that's how
especially on the interior there. Like if you're playing like James played linebacker, D end, or fullback, or offensive line. I think some of the receivers and the DBs, those guys can get away with it. Obviously, quarterbacks.
Not Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
he held on to that shit 24/7.
I don't know what I don't think he's holding on to much, to be honest with you.
Not anymore.
Yeah, but
wasn't that him who threw all that shit off the balcony and hit those people at the pool?
Yeah, he seemed to have changed though, because if you watch his interviews earlier in his career, he's a different person than
nicer
after
person?
he got hit by Vontez Burfict.
He was nicer earlier.
He was
nicer earlier. He was like,
I don't know about nicer, but he was definitely more like
composed.
Refined.
Control. At least he wasn't doing things like that. That's.
It's hard to tell though, because it's like, did he get hit a lot? Also, though, you know, you give anybody money and fame and things get a little wacky. So
Yeah.
It's also, I think, somewhat of an unfair exchange that we put on the players to expect you to be operating at such a high intensity for so long. It's not just game day. I mean, like Harrison, you got to train every day. You got to be kind of in that mindset your whole career. And then as soon as you go into the general public, okay, no, you got to be a citizen here, man. You got to chill.
I mean, it's similar to like a soldier, which it's obviously it's nothing alike, but from a mentality perspective and jumping back into society, it's extremely difficult transition. Actually, you know, for veterans, I think it's super tough because a lot of NFL guys at least have resources. You know, NFLPA provides a ton of resources, and a lot of them make decent money. Well, I guess some don't, but you know, as a veteran coming back, that can be tough transition.
Was it ever tough for you? I mean, did you ever experience that where you're like, okay, maybe I need to chill?
Yeah, and I cried on the way over here, but I'm just kidding. 10 years of stuff. No, no, it is tough. I think that mine was a little more gradual. I think sometimes guys have a really hard time right out of the gate, but I was super passionate about just like human performance and getting into that and stuff. And I met my wife, and we got married right after I stopped playing. So there was a lot of good things happening in my life, at least enough for me to kind of string along and figure things out. And but there was some times, I would say probably 3-4 years after I stopped playing, that feel kind of lost. You know, you go from doing something that is so exciting, there's so much structure around how to get better and accomplish goals.
Yeah.
And everyone cares about it. Everyone's excited about it, you know, to doing stuff where like you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Nobody really cares what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And you go from this, you know, just huge ups to, you know, everyday life. And you know, the highs in football especially are high. Like they are super high. They're highs where a lot of people won't even probably experience, which is amazing. But it shifts your perspective of what high is. Yeah. So if you're chasing that again, I think guys have a really hard time. Yeah. You got to realize you have to find those highs. You got to find those highs, but they have to be different types of highs. But also you got to learn to enjoy the in-betweens, because the in-betweens is where you spend 99% of the time. Yeah.
They're few and far between. And I think even like you said, I mean, the highs in everyday life, maybe you make an incredible business decision and you get this awesome new deal. Yeah. That's great. But it's a very, very different. I mean, you didn't make an incredible play. You didn't knock Harrison on his ass and steal the ball.
100,000 people cheering for you.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing. You make a great business deal. You could sell a company for $100 million, and you might get an article in Forbes, but like people don't really care. Yeah. Like you said, you get 100,000 people going nuts. And I also think there's something to like the physical aggression and that outlet, and you know, as opposed to just like a business transaction or accomplishment. It's just different.
What's the warrior spirit?
Exactly.
It's something that I think, like you said, not a lot of people experience it. I think that's a big disservice. It's why I think especially youth sports are so important. I think everybody needs to at least taste it. You need to at least know what it's like to do something very physical. And this is another question that I had for you and what you would advise. Yeah. The implementation of the gym, physical training. How do you, because you still need to, being such a, you know, you're a dominant person, you're an alpha male, you have to find a new avenue. You can't crash your car into other people on the freeway. You have to find a physical activity to fill that void. Yeah. Did that come in the shape of training in the gym?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think that was definitely a challenge. I'll say, you know, afterwards, when you have, and my wife struggles with this as well, is
because she was a high end, she was an Olympic swimmer.
Yes, she swam at 0408. She was a savage. She's way cooler than me. I mean, her coolest award that she'll never talk about, and I think she doesn't understand the perspective, is she won USOC Sportswoman of the Year 2 times, which means you're the best female athlete of all the Olympic sports.
Wow.
2 times.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's great. That's back before they were giving that to men.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was unbelievable, like what she's done. But I think what you struggle with is you go from like this this structure, and like I said, like the weight room and your training, all this stuff. It was like, if I do this, I get better at this, which results in this as an athlete. Yeah. And then afterwards, just to kind of work out, because it's hard to really generate enough motivation, right? Yeah. Because if you're not like super aesthetically driven, which I'm not, she's not, like, you know, some people get really obsessed with the aesthetics and they go into bodybuilding and stuff like that. it's tough to be a driver. So do you get into like strength-based stuff, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, CrossFit? I think that's why a lot of guys do CrossFit, because it kind of fills that void. But
Yeah.
it is
Part
hard.
of a team. You've got a little community around you.
Oh, they crush community. But
Or cult, however you
Or
determine
cult.
it,
Yeah, I like that.
thin line between cult. A cult's a really solid community.
Especially if you're the leader.
Yeah.
He's got a really strong leader.
Yeah. So I think it's hard. It's hard to like find the motivation just because. And I think that's what you have to try to do is like bounce around, try different things. That's why I'm doing the marathon. I mean, I hate running with an absolute passion, but I was like, you know what? I had a lot of friends that are into it, and I think it's something I need to do once in my life. So I did it. I went from, man, in November, I went on this fitness retreat, and there was a 6-mile run with Des Linden, who's an absolute rock star. She won the Boston Marathon, first American female to win it in like 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So we're like doing a 6-mile jog, and I'm like, piece of cake. I had to walk halfway, 3 miles in, had to walk. I couldn't even jog 6 miles. Horrible. Like at a 5 or a 10-minute pace. And I went from that to like, I was ready to run the marathon, probably break 4 hours, which wasn't that fast, but I'm like 240. So
that's great. For big guys, it sure is.
It's amazing. Like running has been one of the most mentally, I don't know if liberating is the right word, but I guess my self reflection, and just you learn a lot about yourself when you are at like a 6 out of 10 discomfort level, but you're just gonna be there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like it's that
long, slow, steady suffering.
Like it's such a challenge.
Yeah.
Like you want to stop so bad. And the other thing is, like we were talking about, nobody cares, right? You're supposed to do an 18-mile training run. You can stop at 5. No one's gonna know or care.
Yeah.
So just
it's a test on self-drive because you have to. Yeah.
And like there's so much self-talk, and I've learned more about myself in the last 6 months than I ever thought I could. I thought I knew enough, and I was like, I know nothing. So
I think it's high-level athletics in general struggle oftentimes with the implementation of training or exercise or anything when they come out of the bubble of their league or their sport.
Yeah.
You got to reinvent yourself, kind of.
Yeah.
100%.
You're also not being, and I'm not at all saying this, it pertains to you or your experience, but you oftentimes take for granted the team of coaches, dietitians, the gyms, the high-level facilities, and everything you had at your disposal that's now gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I gotta like now I have to know how to do this by myself. This is so weird.
And also the intensity level. Like, when I go back, we have this thing where all the alumni guys go back, and I usually speak at it on sleep and just wellness, because a lot of guys struggle with that, and they think like I just have to kill myself in the gym in order for it to even count, because that's what it was like in college. The intensity of the workouts we used to do, I always wish we had heart rate monitors and stuff, because it was outrageous.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do. And people talk to me about,
Especially in college.
oh, no.
You're so young.
And people talk to me about, like, oh, I think I might be like overtraining and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like,
no, you're not.
if you're overtraining, like, that is a fast, steady decline in performance, right? It's not like I'm a little too sore today. And the human body is extremely adaptable, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes people leave so much on the table because they don't want to overtrain. But if you're just smart about it, you can do crazy stuff. But those college guys or even pro guys, they get out of there, and you're used to such a high intensity of workouts. But for like health and longevity and just feeling good, you don't need to be killing yourself every day. So then they end up not working out because it's such a tall order to muster up that type of energy every single time that you end up just not being compliant with the program. And then your health just starts to deteriorate. It's just not doable.
I have a question. If your whole purpose, like let's say for the guys in this room, if your whole purpose is longevity, training to be able to do this till we're 65, 70, what have you found to be like the most optimal way of training, sleep, everything across the board?
Yeah, I mean, I would say sleep, no doubt, is a silver bullet for longevity. And it's the only thing in those different variables that can't be skipped or hacked or corners cut. There's just no possible way to get around getting the right amount of sleep and the proper stages of sleep. Whereas the other things, with nutrition, there's ways to manipulate that, right? Like, so you could maybe eat a little more poorly, but your energy balance, like you juice up your caloric output, right? There's ways to balance those things. Some of the strength stuff, there's different programs.
Pull the mic a little closer to your face, bro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
With like training and variables and intensities, there's a lot of ways to kind of tweak these different avenues of health and wellness and get around ways and adjust, and there's different ways to skin a cat. When it comes to sleep, there's like no way around it, and it will absolutely be the thing that either helps you or hurts you. It's kind of like a leg in a relay. You know, if you're running the 4x100 relay and you have like an absolute monster at anchor, it's going to help the entire time. The entire team will overperform. It's like when Jamaica had Usain Bolt. Like sleep is like the Usain Bolt of longevity, because he's going to make the entire team win gold medals when the other three might have been average.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you have a horrible anchor or if you don't sleep well, everything else comes down. That time just falls apart.
Even if the other three are doing okay.
Exactly.
If you have a bad
you could
anchor,
have three top 10 runners in the world, be have a horrible fourth, and all of a sudden it all falls apart. And that's kind of how sleep is.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the best ways to improve your sleep in your experience?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing for people is awareness. You know, understanding, one, how much you need to get, and two, how much you're getting. It's kind of like food. You know, when you talk about people being compliant to a nutrition program, when you start tracking, people's compliance goes through the roof, right? Just because they're aware. Same thing with sleep, you know, just understanding how much you're getting, how much you should get, what's the goals. And I think the other thing is making it a priority. You know, a lot of people fit sleep in where it needs to be the other way.
I'm guilty of that at times. Even, I mean, I am. I'm guilty of it. I do it. I'm like, well, you know what? I've got to get this workout done. I've got to do this project. I'll take 6 instead of 8 or 5 instead of 8.
Right. But at the end of the day, whatever story you want to tell yourself, it's just not the priority. And there is probably a way to do it. It's just never been the priority, and other things are more important, which is true. And it's okay if that's the case, but I think it's starting to change those priorities and work backwards. It's like saving money. Like you want to save the amount of money first and then figure out your expenses afterwards. If you do it the other way, if you start buying stuff you want, paying your rent, and then try to save money at the end, chances are you're going to use it all.
Right.
So same with sleep. You got to start with that first and work backwards for your schedule.
Yeah. How has that, first off, how did this become such a priority for you in business? I mean, you've just, what is the name of the company?
Dream Recovery.
Dream Recovery. Okay. So this is is this your newest company?
Yes.
This is, okay.
Newest,
So tell me about it. What is it?
I'm super stoked about it because, so it's a pretty wide net that we're going to cast, but we're starting with a sleep mask. So it came to fruition because, you know, I speak to athletes and people about sleep and longevity and recovery. We get asked about sleep mask recommendations, and I just never had an awesome answer.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why don't we just do it ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I teamed up with my two partners, Cole and Jake, and, you know, we set out and we essentially tried to make the best sleep mask on the market. Like, so we have,
let's see it. It's on the website?
And it's not quite live. We go live Friday.
Oh, cool. That's
Ooh.
exciting.
Yeah. So
dreamrecovery.io.
Yep.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah. So what's cool about it is we have like 30 mummy silk, which is like the 24 karat gold of silk. It's like the density and the weight of the silk. Like most like lingerie or like nightwear is like 6 to 7. This is 30. It's the absolute best silk on the planet.
So it's like your face. You don't even feel that
it's super like cooling and moisturizing and comfortable, and you'll definitely feel a difference. It doesn't sound like something that's important, but when you like spend the money on good materials, it's like night and day. And then we bought every single sleep mask out there, like cut them open, tried them for about a year, you know, tweaked the designs, the shapes, all these different things. And we just came out with 2 different versions, just going to stick to our guns and just make, you know, these simple versions the best you can possibly be. So just, you know, like a super elite, simple version, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to have 18 different versions. So we have one that's like, it's called the 3D, and that has pads like around. So that's a good starter mask because it's not as much contact on your eyes and freaks people out.
Yeah, it gets away so you don't feel like you're being compressed.
And a lot of females like it because it doesn't mess up your eyelashes if you have fake eyelashes.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
so that's we don't think about.
Right, I know. That's like a back sleeper, but if you roll around pretty aggressively, sometimes it can get knocked off because it's a little thicker. So the other one is like the OG, and that's like your more normal like sleep mask that you'll see.
Yeah.
It's flush on the sides, so when you roll over, it doesn't knock it off your face. It's super comfortable.
Got it.
But we're starting with that, and we have a whole kind of lineup of products we're going to start unfolding over the next year. And the next one will probably be mouth tape, which So,
we had a hostage tape on here a couple times, and I mean that to me has been one of the most practical biohacks that I mean I was doing it even before I met the hostage tape or anything, just with duct tape. It makes a almost instant difference with your sleep quality, almost instantly.
Night and day. I've been messing with it for about 5 years on and off. And Hostage does a great job. You know, they have a great product, but we just tried to take everything. You know, we took the pros of a lot of products out there, tried to reshape it a little bit, different materials, different glues, different sizes, widths, and really just again tried to like make it as good as possible. And I'm pumped about that just for myself.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, you know, there's good research on mouth tape, you know, like there was one study that showed like a 26% reduction in snoring. A lot of sleep apnea symptoms can be reduced. Like, and when I work with ex players, you know, if your neck size is over 17 inches,
which they all are,
your risk for sleep apnea goes through the roof.
Right.
So it's always recommended to get tested. But mouth tape is a great way to train yourself to breathe through your nose. And there's so many positive health benefits we're learning from breathing through your nose. And just from my own experience, man, when I started doing that consistently, like now I can't not do it because my sleep is so much better and I feel so much better with my mouth closed. And it's been a pretty cool experience, but the testing has been a lot. So I'm ready to have a final product and just, you know, have something that myself can use. I mean, I'm selfish with this product, but you know, it's awesome.
It's how you got to be, you know, a product of the product.
100%.
So,
That's the thing is I'm out here living all this stuff. So, you know, we've tried it a million times and I'm really stoked about it.
There's so many different products you can do, all just centered around sleep. I mean, you could do the blackout shades. You could do. You ever done any research on the grounding effect of beds and all that?
Questions about that, and like it's one. It's not a ton. You know, the research is like, there's a lot of like claims being made. It's kind of like an infrared sauna where there's a lot of conceptual things.
We could go for a while on that.
I hate them.
Well, I don't hate the infrared sauna. I hate what people say about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, one, you're taking all these studies where the temperatures are not even close to what you're doing, and it's a totally different heating mechanism.
Yeah, it's an actual sauna with a 210 degree little room. It's not an infrared.
So I'm just confused. I work with Sisu Sauna, and Pete, the founder, is an amazing guy. You should guys have him on. But they do barrels, and it's amazing. It gets to 220 degrees, and it just rips. But
I've seen you do that. Yeah.
I've seen those barrels. Those are so cool looking.
Dude, well, they're so amazing. One, like, so similar to what we did with the mask, what Pete did at Sisu, he was like, see, he used to work with different sauna companies.
Yeah,
he's like,
look at those. I love those round saunas. I think they're so cool.
And he was like, I'm just going to make this one thing. So they have a 6-person and a 2-person. I'm just going to make this as nice, clean, and perfect as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Not anything fancy, just one version. And he has the best heaters, Wi-Fi heater. And the other thing with the barrel that nobody really talks about is, you know, you have 6 people, you're sitting face to face. It's too hot for phones. And like a little bit of adversity, like you get to know people really quick. So when I have people come over, like we become friends like so fast.
Yeah, you're all
like,
suffering too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like being on a team. And so like Andrew East, who, you know, he's like he has a podcast and he's on social media a lot.
Oh yeah.
He plays football. I met him like one of the first days I moved there. He came over to go in the sauna, and we had so much fun. We had all these guys over. We call them the sauna boys now, but we had so much fun. Like he came over like 6 out of the first 8 days because like it's such good community and conversation in the sauna. You just don't get that nowadays.
No.
Yeah.
So
and
awesome.
sometimes you don't want it in a public sauna. Like,
no,
not a lot of times I don't want to talk to the creepy guy that's sitting next to me. I don't want a community with
That's
you.
just like PTSD from like childhood YMCA's and like old guys are creepy in there.
And correct me if I'm wrong. There's an ice bath that's like right next to it, right?
So we have like the little setup we have. We have the sauna, we have an outdoor shower, and we have 3 ice baths.
There you go.
Yeah. That was before I moved to Michigan on my balcony, and it was so cold outside.
Oh, is that? Oh, God. I see the snow on the roof.
Yeah. It was crazy.
That's freezing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about another biohack for sleep is doing contrast therapy right before you go to bed.
Absolutely.
If you do ice and then hot and then you go and hit the hay, you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
You're just going to conk out immediately.
Yeah, we always recommend like the hot right before bed, you know, because your body has like the opposite reaction, right? If you heat itself up, it's going to cool itself down post, like almost overcompensate for whatever you did. Same,
right.
You know, warm in the morning. So if you do cold plunge first thing, you can heat yourself up really fast in the morning. So, man, even like it's cool because we talk about all this stuff, implement all this stuff, recommend these things, but then now we have some of these wearables for like backing up with data. So it'll be cool if some of this stuff comes out and the research comes out. We actually have the Dream Recovery sleep mask being used in a university study, which would be really cool on sleep masks. Cool. So it'll be our actual sleep mask.
Is it at Michigan or is it different?
No, it's at a East Coast school, small East Coast school, but
cool.
It'll be fun.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's again, I think sleep is very underrated. I think it's not really. I think there's a lot of good study on it, but I think more so now.
Yeah, I want to see more like outcome-based study. You know, there's some good, a couple things study-wise I want to see is one, it's cool because there's at-home sleep studies happening more and more because as soon as you change your environment when it comes to sleep,
you don't sleep as good.
The cycles are all over the place. You know, your well, first off, like half your brain is much more active and you're extremely sensitive to sound that we found. It's called like first night syndrome. And so like in a hotel room, something like that, regardless of how comfortable you are, whose house it is, you're relaxed.
Is it because you're kind of alert because your brain knows you're not at home?
It's like a defense mechanism of like, I need to be a little more alert. I'm in a new surroundings, probably from when we evolved.
That's like when we go on vacation with my kids, the first night is a nightmare. And then after like night 1 or night 2, they settle in. So
So there's a lot of science behind that. And that's why the sleep mask is great for athletes, because we have talked about controlling the controllables. Well, if you use that at home, right, you at least control light and sound in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Right? That's just one more thing to take off.
Does the mask impact sound?
No, we're working on some earplugs and stuff like that.
Oh,
but,
sick.
Yeah, it's just like, as an athlete, like that's the thing. The more things you can eliminate that could be a variable, the better, and the more consistent your performance will be.
Yeah.
So why not use that as one more thing? Because hotel rooms are all over the place. What time zone you're in, what blackout shades they have, you never know what you're going to get. So why risk it?
Yeah.
And do you have anything against like white noise, like sleeping with that as a whole?
No, the data on it, it's not like if you don't do it and then you do it, it's going to increase how well you sleep or how fast you fall asleep. But it's one of those things, if you're used to it, it can be really useful. And for anybody that has sounds that are out of their control, like a train, or maybe there's like, I don't know, animals, or you live with a window in New York City, it can be useful to drown it out. So it's great for that, right? Because noise in general is pretty disruptive to sleep, especially in new environments. So white noise can be another way to combat, like in a hotel room possibly. But the thing is, you can't implement these things when only you go in a hotel room, right? It's all about consistency, not the actual like modality that you're using. You can't just like flip it on whenever you want, right? If you don't wear a sleep mask when you're home and then all of a sudden I'm going to a hotel, I'm going to try to use it, it's probably not going to work that well. It's just different and uncomfortable.
Especially something like that, because it's on your face. If you're not used to that, it's going to be different.
Well, that's the thing with the dream recovery is like we do like a money back guarantee if you don't like it, because it is something that you have to try and you have to see it through like 3, 4, 5 days. The first night probably might be a little tough. It is different, if you're not used to wearing a mask, but I think the consistency is worth it. Yeah. You just got to give it time.
What's the importance of light, or rather the lack thereof, on sleep? I haven't really done much on that, but I know it's big.
It's shocking. Even they found like there's some studies that show even like the old school alarm clocks, just like the red digital lights, even that can have an impact on your deep sleep cycles. Yeah. So, complete blackout is super important. And the only way to a sleep mask is by far the easiest way to do that, right? Like blackout shades, all these different things. Like it's not easy to completely black out a room. Also, like
everything has a light on it.
Everything. So, just make it easy on yourself and throw a mask on. It's like one thing, it covers it all.
And you can take it places. You can't take your blackout shades anywhere.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny, the timing of this episode. I have been sort of recently looking into, well, all right, how can I sleep proof my room? Like, what can I do? Because I know there's a lot I could do. Starting, the very first thing I thought of was blackout shades, because I have my backyard glows. Yeah. All that stuff has LEDs on it.
Your whole property glows.
Exactly. You can see it from space. Yeah. So I've got to figure out a way to, cut into that. I've gone down some crazy. There's people that are putting crystals under their pillow. Yeah. It's so differentiating between what's science and what's kind of not.
That's like the infrared sauna.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what brought you grounding.
And that's what brought me to grounding. Well, you actually brought me to grounding with that video you showed me of that guy. This individual.
I know exactly.
Do you know the one I'm talking about with the string?
Guy?
He took. Maybe I haven't. This is nuts. He was on his bedroom was on the second story of his house.
Okay.
He took a copper wire. Yep. Am I saying this right? Tied it to a like a penny or something of that, and put that under his bed. Took the wire out his second story window and drove it into the earth, and it created the charge of the earth under his bed.
2004 Olympics. My wife said, I can't remember who it was. It was a big name swimmer for the U.S. The coach literally grounded their bed. 2004.
Wow.
Wire going out of Olympic Village down to the ground. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. But
this guy swore by it.
But imagine in 2004 doing that. Because that's a long time ago.
You're right.
Some wacky stuff.
Man ahead of his time.
Well, and that's back when people would have been like, what are you doing? Like, where are you even getting this? But, hey, what's the worst that can happen? You can try it.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, with the dream recovery. Everything we'll do will be data driven. Like there will be science to support it. We're not going to come out with something that is even like, oh, this makes me more comfortable. Like there needs to have data behind it and to support it. We're not just going to be slinging products to sell it. I'm super passionate. I'll die on the hill of science before I just sell a product to sell it. So that's one of our core values.
Yeah, because otherwise you're kind of relying on the placebo effect a little bit. Right. Maybe this grounds me in my sleep, maybe not. But
But
if I think it does,
sell products off that.
you're right.
I mean,
Oh, exactly.
you could crush it.
You could crush it. I mean, especially something like that. If you were like compelled to just put a little rock under your bed, you could just do a stone.
Start
or
making
something.
claims, like wild claims, and like boom.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you have a sauna company. I mean, a grounding.
We had Josh from Shama Sandals on, and we were talking about the same thing. We're like, hey, what if you put copper,
A little penny,
and make it come up through the sole, and so you're technically grounded in your. And there are other companies. I think Zero Shoes.
They already
does
do
the
that.
same
There
thing
are
with
shoes that
sandals.
do
It
that.
reminds
Yeah.
me of, like, do you remember if you guys play? Did you guys play baseball? Like, they used to have those
Couple
like
years.
thick necklaces that guys used to wear with like the magnets in them.
Yeah,
it was like a thing. For like 5
okay,
years.
that's so weird. I knew one guy who did that
And
in
they
college.
just disappeared.
What was that for?
It was supposed to like optimize your magnetic field and all this stuff, and everyone wore them. It was kind of like more of a cultural thing.
It was
Guys had,
odd.
like, 4 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And they weren't cool looking.
No, they were
they
really
were ugly,
bulky and
They
odd
weren't as
looking.
cool as like the hookah shells back in the day.
Those will never not be cool.
Yeah, I should have wore that, but yeah, no, it was wild. It's weird.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you, because obviously we've kind of jumped around different topics. If you could like summarize and give like 5 practical things that anyone can do to optimize sleep, like what would those be?
Yeah. Number 1, I would say just write down what time you fall asleep and wake up, and just reflect on it after the week. Number 2, I would say having a cool temperature. So 65 to 68 degrees is ideal based on the literature for a sleeping temperature. Number 3 is front load your water intake. So, you want to have the majority of your water intake the first 10 hours of the day, and then taper off.
Interesting.
Yeah, because,
Never heard this.
you don't want to get up in the middle of the night and have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
I do
And-
every night.
Yeah.
Every night, yeah.
And it's not abnormal to go to the bathroom like once or maybe twice, but if you're getting up 3-4 times. The other thing is, a lot of people I talk to about sleep is they have issues, and it has nothing to do with sleep. It's everything to do with anxiety and ruminating thoughts and having stress management issues outside of sleep. It's more about stuff in their life, relationships, work, all these different things going on. So when you think about drinking water earlier, every time you wake up, it's almost giving your brain an opportunity to take over with this anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Just don't give it the opportunities to take over, right? Eliminate all possible things you can. Like I said,
Get your
control the
phone
controllables.
away from your
Right.
bed. That's me.
Everything,
That's,
yeah.
That's
everything you
bad.
can do. And so that's a really easy way. So first 10 hours is ideal, and then taper it off. You don't want to have a dry mouth at dinner, but
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because I sauna in the morning to force myself to hydrate before going in and to kind of jumpstart. Is that bad to kind of dehydrate yourself by getting in the sauna in the morning?
in the morning, no, I think that's even better, because you can. Well, I do like the sauna at night for the sleep purposes, but if you're gonna be dehydrated, much better then, because you can still front load your water.
It's still early enough in the day.
And that's a problem, honestly, I have. So like sometimes I'll have people come over at night to do sauna, and you have to drink a ton of water in there.
Yeah.
And then like I'm getting up going to the bathroom, which is not ideal, but again, you have to like pick and choose your battles. It's worth it from a social perspective.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So what were we at? Number
It was
3.
3, on 4.
4 at the blackout, right? So sleep mask or blackout shades is ideal. I
Do you guys sell blackout shades?
no, we're working on something,
Sick.
but it's unique. It's not out there yet.
I'm
So
excited.
it could be cool,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
don't want to drop it yet, but blackout shades, and then there's a lot of options you could do.
You could give an honorable mention. Doesn't have
Well,
to.
I got one more. Don't come. Oh man, come on. Number 5, I would say I would be mindful of substances, right? Like a lot of people, caffeine is a huge issue for people, and just understanding how long it stays in your system and how long it takes to metabolize. Like some examples, right? So caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours. So like your typical American, let's say they have 3 cups of coffee, right? So 100 milligrams of caffeine, a cup of coffee, and that's a small cup of coffee.
So that's 300 in a day.
So let's say they have a cup at 7, right? And then they have a cup at 11, and then they have a cup at 1, right? So when that starts metabolizing, it takes 5 to 6 hours to get half of it out of your system. So that cup at 7, it starts to dip back down. It juices up to 100 milligrams, start to come back down, but not fast enough. So after those 3 cups, you had 300 milligrams total, but you still have about 220 milligrams of caffeine in your system at 3 p.m. from those cups compounding. Fast forward to 11 p.m., you have about 80 milligrams of caffeine in your system still. At 11
even
p.m.,
after 8 hours.
which is the same amount as a Red Bull.
Wow.
And that's only 300 milligrams of caffeine. So I think being mindful of like front loading your caffeine intake, because caffeine can be amazing.
Yeah.
Just understanding when it stays in your
Breaks
system.
through the blood-brain barrier,
Yeah,
gives you
all
the
that
energy
stuff.
kick.
What
yeah.
else is weird though is nicotine. When you have nicotine combined with it, it almost cuts the half-life in half. Yeah. So when you have nicotine combined with caffeine, the half-life of caffeine, I think, reduces like 75%.
Really?
Right. So I'm not saying to combine them, but it's just being mindful.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you combine caffeine with alcohol, the half-life of caffeine goes to like 10 to 12 hours. So if you have like an espresso martini, that caffeine is hanging on.
So vodka Red Bull would be rough.
So that goes.
RBV, baby.
You're drinking a vodka Red Bull. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You're looking to like stay sped up and slow down at the same time.
And then you'll get the blackout eventually.
Yeah. So you do espresso martinis, that's going to have a bad impact. A lot of times if you're at a nice place, you can ask for decaf, but I'm pretty sure they just lie.
Yeah, you're right. They don't want to go through the
4 a.m.
Yeah, alcohol's brutal for your sleep.
I was literally about to ask. I just saw someone was talking about alcohol and the impact on sleep. I believe they were talking about the autonomic nervous system being impacted by it. I mean, what does alcohol do to your sleep?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what it does is alcohol prevents your body from getting in REM sleep, especially earlier in the night, right? Okay. So you have pretty much two halves of the night. You have majority of your REM sleep in the second half of the night, and most of your lighter stages of sleep in the first half. So the lighter stages are like your physical regeneration sleep, right? That's where your muscle tissue repairs more. The REM sleep is like your emotional regulation sleep, memory consolidation, motivation, all these things come from that area. So what happens is when you have alcohol, it delays the REM sleep the first half of the night for about 5 to 6 hours, because the way it's processed in the body, it doesn't allow you to get into the deeper sleep, the deeper REM sleep. And then the second half of the night, you go into these crazy deep REM cycles because you've deprived your brain of REM sleep the first half of the night. So people wake up and they're like, oh, I slept like a rock. Well, it's like, yeah, because you starved your brain of REM sleep the first half and it's trying to make up for it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going on. And so I think what people have to do is they have to think of sleep kind of like an orchestra, where each stage is like a different instrument, right? And there's not one instrument that's more important than the other, right? The trumpet isn't more important than the violin. They're different, but equally important. So when you have these lighter stages of sleep and REM sleep, you have to make sure you're getting all these different stages. It's not just about how much time you're sleeping. It's about making sure you're getting the optimal amounts of each sleep, just like an orchestra. And you're kind of like the composer, right? You got to set up the night, set up the performance for optimal function, and then kind of let it rip when you get out there.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is there anything specifically you do to like offload your thoughts before you go to sleep, like journaling, meditation, anything like that?
That's tough. I think I'm not a journaler. A lot of people have success with that.
I've got one for that. I do want to hear that. It's mindfulness. The app, Mindfulness. You ever tried that?
I have not.
Now, it's a little steep. It's like they charge you like $80 for a year subscription to it, and it is an app after all, so that's a bit much. But it's got hundreds of different types of meditational awareness. It's got it like categorized based on activity. So if you're trying to go to sleep, listen to these meditational playlists. If you're trying to start your day, it's the best one I've found for that. And for me, I think that's probably my most consistent problem with sleep is turning off those thoughts, is getting because I stay stuck on stimulus. Caffeine, sure, but on the phone.
Well, you're a high energy guy.
Yeah, social media.
Yeah,
texting. It's hard for me.
So one thing I've done the last 2 months with this, which is sick, is I partnered with Bright Balance, which is a new mattress company. It just came out, AI powered mattress company. Yeah, I know, and
it's everywhere.
Yeah. And so what it has is 45 air pressurized cylinders on each side of the bed. And you have an app, settings, does heart rate variability, resting heart rate, respiratory rate. But where the true value is anytime you roll over, if there's a pressure point, it adjusts all the cylinders around it to disperse the force. So it literally feels like, so you wake up and it'll tell you I was like the first person to get it.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievable.
It does sound, what's something like this cost?
It blew me. They're pretty pricey, but if you DM me, I can get you $1,000 off.
Right?
Really?
Ooh, yeah. BRYTE.
Yeah, but so they're going in some of the Four Seasons, some of the the big hotels in New York.
Yeah.
And the idea is when you travel, you have the consistent settings. But when it literally feels like you're on a cloud. So
you can take your settings from your home mattress and go to another Bright, and it'll know your settings.
So when you're
Oh my god.
So
that's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
When I talk to them about partnering, I'm always very skeptical. Like I said, like I will die on the hill of science. So I'm like, we're talking. I'm like, well, I have to try this thing out and believe in it before we do something, because that's important to me. So they sent it in. I had a really nice mattress before. You know, I had a Tempur-Pedic. It was super nice. It was not cheap.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I'm like, there's no way, like, what could be, you know, better? I actually loved my mattress. And the first night I was like, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so the other thing it does is it has similar meditation type things. So it has this thing called Somnify, and it has all this library. It has like thunder, different meditation things for different goals. And you lay down, and it connects to a Bluetooth speaker. And then it uses these pressurized chambers, and it does these rolling waves in the bed. It's super subtle. Like, it's not like you're on a waterbed. It's very subtle, but it just rocks you like right to sleep, and you're out. It's nuts.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Does everything but sing you a lullaby. That's
seriously
insane.
It's insane. It exceeded my expectations. It's one of the coolest products. They have a ton of tech behind them. So if you ever get the chance, it's weird because people come over and I've talked about it and we'll like go, come lay in my bed and like try it out, which is weird, but you know, it's the only way to experience it.
You wouldn't have to tell me twice. It'd be like, it's going to sing to me.
Yeah,
oh yeah, I'll try it.
No, it's sick. Yeah. So like I always do the thunder one because like when the thunder like hits heavy, it like rolls a wave down your back.
Rent out your bed like an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Hey, come take the best nap ever.
It's like the Rolls Royce of beds.
Yeah, so the Four Seasons Beverly Hills just put in a couple like suites especially designed for recovery and sleeping well, because they're realizing, like, also like, you know, the Equinox Hotel is another example.
Yeah.
When people travel, one, they travel a lot. Two, like optimizing themselves and taking care of themselves on the road is becoming more and more important. Like people will pick a hotel because of the money invested in the bed and in the blackout shades and all these different things.
Yeah, can we normalize nice hotel gyms?
It's getting there. Gyms.
Yeah, I mean, some of the gyms are just like
it's hit or miss.
Yeah,
I do the new ones though. They're catching on too. I just went to the Wall Street Hotel, which in on Wall Street, and they have the Bright Balance. That's why I went there.
Sure.
I went down to their gym.
Is it awesome,
dude? Rogue rigs, plates, like
that's
awesome
great.
Treadmills, you know, med balls, everything, kettlebells, everything you can imagine. I was blown away.
Yeah,
like rubber flooring, all black. I was like, you could like get after it in here. This is sick. I wasn't even expecting that. I like went down there hoping to like have a treadmill, you know.
Yeah, some machines.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they just when you figure, if I'm designing my hotel gym, I want it to meet the expectations of the most amount of people at the most amount of time, and most people have no idea what to do with bumper plates and a Rogue rack and everything. So the gyms that do it are kind of taking a gamble.
But think about like on Wall Street. Think about if you close your eyes and imagine a super successful Wall Street person.
Oh, he deadlifts.
They're taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and more that's the norm. So I think that it's cool to see, and it's not just like this afterthought. It's like a priority, and they're realizing health and wellness is important to people, and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, and so is recovery.
Yeah.
And that, like you were saying, you know, with the NFL and everything that changes once you get out. I mean, there's been this big paradigm shift, much more toward recovery than the breakdown. Yeah. I mean, protein degradation, the strength and conditioning, that's always been very popular. People have always known it's important. Mm-hmm. But now you have coaches, I mean, wellness instructors, facilities, they're all picking up cold plunges and saunas and then like sleep is still sort of though this missing piece in that equation. Mm-hmm. And it's cool to see that, like you and Bright, it's like, because there's companies out there that are trying to make that not be the way it is.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing is too, is not only sports teams, like corporations. Like I'm talking to some executives this week, and companies are realizing if people are taking care of themselves, their productivity goes through the roof. Like you don't have to be working 70-hour work weeks when you're crushing it within those 40 hours. And the more and more data that comes out, your cognitive function, decision making, even like your emotional intelligence and reading people's faces when you're well slept goes off the charts. So I think it's about being as efficient as possible and really like optimizing your function within those work days as opposed to just grinding it. And I think now companies are like investing in things like sleep and taking care of their employees as opposed to like pushing them and doing all this motivational stuff. It's more about wellness and optimization.
Yeah.
And burnout's a real thing, especially in, you know, the corporate setting.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the corporations are like one way or the other, where they're like all in on wellness and they understand it, or they're like all in on we're just going to be old school and just grind it out.
We just synced up. Did you ever see the episode of Workaholics where Dane Cook is the leader of the sales force? He calls it a sales team 6, and his entire
I loved Workaholics. I can't remember it.
His entire office is a sauna, and he's got these exotic dancers serving sushi.
It's season 6, episode 1.
It's new.
Season 6. I think I kind of fell off a little bit.
Oh, I did too. He showed.
It's back.
It's with season 6. I don't know when
I think it
you
stopped at
stopped.
season 7, maybe.
I stopped at season 2 or
I just
3.
remember like the fully torqued episode. That was
That was good too. But it's the funniest thing in that his whole entire office is a dry sauna, and they just eat sushi and they just sweat.
sounds pretty sick, actually. That'd be, as long as it's not infrared, I'm all about it.
Oh man, this is great! What an awesome topic, awesome company that you're making and getting.
I mean, your guys' setup. I mean, the backyard is insane. I mean, the whole thing's insane. I've never seen anything like this. I'm blown away.
Thanks. Bro.
I saw pictures and I was like, "This is gonna be pretty sick." I showed a couple people. I'm excited to check this out, but it doesn't do it justice. It's hard to capture something like this.
The best part is when you showed up and everyone does the same thing. They're like, "Am I at the right place?"
Am I at the one? Yeah, I'm at the right place.
I also like. I'm not from here. This is probably the city I spend the least amount of time in. So I'm like, I definitely have the wrong address. 100%. I'm like 30 because it was kind of far because I'm staying downtown. I'm like, I'm like 30 minutes out. I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
Well, but the market out here because there isn't anything like this out here. There are no elite training or recovery centers out in the East Valley. Yeah. It's all just commercial stuff. It's Lifetime Fitness.
That's even downplaying it to elite training. I mean, this is like an experience. This is like a haunted house, Marvels.
We get the Universal Studios of home gyms.
Oh,
We've
better.
gotten that.
I got that today.
Yeah, you get that today again.
I got that today.
Haunted house was it's like Islands of Adventure, basically.
Yeah, it's like a trip. You just walk in.
You've seen a roller coaster in the back, it'd be all set.
Speaking of experiences, I wanted you to dive into a little bit of the all-day running company.
Yeah.
I saw it on your backpack.
Yeah.
I know you're involved, so tell us about it.
I mean, all day running is such a cool company. I mean, that's what started my running, right? So I hated running. My real turning point, I distinctly remember. So Jesse Itzer was the founder. We were at his house in Rome, Georgia, with my friend Devin, Jimmy, who founded Super Coffee, Scrape, he founded Tap Out, Tim Snee, who's like a badass cop, Chad Wright, who was a SEAL, all these guys, and they're all endurance athletes, right?
Yeah.
I'm like 265 at the time, just lifting. Right? This is about a year ago. Yeah. And the first night we're sitting around.
What are you now?
I'm like 240, 235.
Okay, got it.
But I can run decent. And yeah. So we're sitting there, and Chad Wright, who, he'll run like 100 milers, like he's nuts. He goes, "You guys want to do like a triathlon in the morning for fun?" So when there's 6 guys, and everyone has, you have a little bit of an ego, you're going to keep up. You can't say no. In my head, I'm like, this is like, could not be more out of my wheelhouse.
What is a triathlon as far as distance? I know it's running, cycling, and swimming.
Yeah, so we did like a sprint. So it wasn't long. It was like 500 meter swim, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm horrible.
That sounds like a lot.
It sounds like a lot.
And then I think it was like I don't know, I want to say like a 10-mile bike, which isn't too bad. Or no, it was like 15-mile bike and then a 3-mile run. But the run was literally up this like mountain. So it was tough. And so basically, I was by far in the worst shape. And at the end, Chad came back, and everyone came back to like help me finish.
Oh, that's cool.
Me on.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't cool.
No, it was not.
It was cool of them. They're some of the best guys I've ever met in my life. But when you're that guy,
just dogging it.
I made a decision that I'll never be that guy again. And that was the point where I started getting it together from cardiovascular perspective. I was strong. I always worked out, but it was like I needed to be more well-rounded because you are going to miss experiences too. There's a lot of cool stuff that happens in the endurance world, the strength world. So my goal now is kind of to be able to like, hey, if someone's like, you want to go do this? I can say yes and feel confident. I'm not going to be the guy that everyone comes back and helps along the path. Because it creates
a much more well-rounded functional athlete. I mean, somebody who can go, and we just had on James Perrette. How do you remember his last name?
That's close.
Wild Hunt Conditioning is his company.
Okay.
And his big claim to fame was that he went over to Mark Bell's. I'm going to butcher this, but he pulled 600 right off the ground, and then he ran a marathon in the same day.
That's what I was going to do. So on Saturday, that's what was my plan until my knee surgery. I was going to deadlift 605. I was going to bench 405, and then I was going to run the marathon the same day.
Oh, just easy like that.
Oh no,
just lift 1,000 pounds and then just go.
It wouldn't be easy. It was.
Can you pull 600 off the ground?
Yeah,
that's impressive.
But it was getting hard. It would have been dicey because one, I lost some weight, which was hard, and then the training was just tough. When you start running, 18, 20 milers on Saturdays, you got to be really strategic with what kind of intensity and volume you have because you can't take away from your runs. Like you're not going to overcome that.
No.
And I was trying to break 4 hours, so that was tough. I ran kind of like a conjugate type thing where I could keep the intensity high enough but not fatigue myself.
Yeah.
But just from a motivational perspective, it was hard to like juice it up for those type of workouts when you're doing like 9 sets of 2 at moving the bar pretty fast.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah, I think for me, what I have found to be the most efficient, because I mean, I love engaging in the cardiovascular. I love rucking. I love doing really.
I've never gotten into that, but now I live in Tennessee, so I can do that.
You have to have I mean, you've got to have a specific set of circumstances just in order to do it. I mean, you've got to either have a ridiculous incline. Camelback Mountain is what's local here. This is the local challenge for everybody. I don't know.
I've looked at it. I haven't done it. When I was here, I was the 270 version of myself, so I was like, I'm not going up.
It's an animal. How long are you here?
No, I'm saying how long am I here?
Yeah,
I leave tomorrow.
What time?
I have like that thing all morning. I would totally do it though.
I would totally freaking do it. I'm gonna do it tomorrow.
Don't do it with him.
No.
Yeah,
I've seen.
He's done it every day of his life, or every week of his life for the last how many years?
You know how you were like the person that back everyone.
yeah.
So Brandon, I hiked. Now this was Flatiron. It's a different mountain. It's like 2 miles to get to the base of the mountain, and then just straight up. Brandon is behind me the entire time, like pushing my ass up this mountain, and it's like he's the worst person to
I took that chariot analogy of the dictator and the leader literally. I'm like, I'm gonna be behind you.
What's your like heart rate during that?
I really don't know.
Oh, okay.
I've never even worn a heart rate monitor.
Can you talk? Is it like conversational or no?
Me? I mean, if I'm going hard, no.
Okay.
It's so to give you just
I know you probably couldn't talk.
perspective.
Oh, are we talking about Camelback or Flatiron?
Well, both.
But either
just
one.
Rucking in general.
Just rucking. Oh no, I take it. I go as hard as I possibly can, and I usually do end up going alone. So there's no one to really talk to.
Right.
But
well, there's you.
The way it ends up going. I mean, it is. I believe they said 175 feet higher than the Empire State Building, and the record is somewhere in the 1640s, so 16 minutes 40 seconds to make it to the top. I've broke 20 minutes like twice, and that's like puked both times. Barely. You couldn't really make it down for a significant amount of time. It's an anaerobic form of cardio. It's
just all out.
It's poles and rocks, and it's just awesome.
So where All Day Running kind of launched from, so Jesse used to have this event in his house. He had it for the last 8 years called Hell on the Hill, and it's 8.5 miles in his backyard of Connecticut. It's this grass hill, 40% grade.
Great. 8.5 miles.
It's 100 laps. It's not long. It's probably 100 yards long.
Yeah.
100 times under 4 hours, and it's brutal. It's
Oh,
called Hell on the Hill.
Oh my gosh.
And so it started out like 7 of them. Yeah, 7 of them.
I know
doing
Devin.
it. Yeah, and now there's like 100 of his friends and family, and it's the most like the coolest, probably my favorite weekend of the entire year.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Everyone gets up before all 100 people, and it's a really cool group of people. They all pick a charity, and they all tell why they're donating to this charity. And Jesse and Sarah donate to every person's charity, but it's super emotional because there's some deep stuff there. There's a lot of people that are going through stuff, people passing away, different charities, and everyone tells their story. I mean, everyone's like crying. It's pretty amazing. I cried.
Wow.
I told my story. My cousin passed away from leukemia when he was 12. I was 16, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I could not get it together. I was like one of the last people to go, and I think everyone else's stories just primed me for crying, and I was just like breaking down. And then this guy named Sauna Poppy just posted a picture of me crying, like no context. Just tagged me. I'm just like bawling, like bent over, and he's just like, "Oh, there's Todd." I was like, "Sweet, dude." Like,
Thanks.
Just, like explain what's happening. I'm just having a breakdown.
This guy cried.
Yeah, that's what it's like. The first time I met him, I was like, "Appreciate it."
Could you actually cry?
Now we're friends. Yeah,
that's cool though.
So it was like,
That is really cool.
That's really fun. I love that, and it gives it it gives you motivation.
So halfway through, we do a silent 10 minutes on the hill, and everyone thinks about all the stories they heard. It's dead silent. 120 people dead silent, like working really hard. It's pretty powerful. It's very unique and very cool.
And you do this where exactly?
It's in Connecticut.
Okay.
At their like summer house.
That's great, man. Yeah, I can tell that's an incline. That looks like a heck
that
of
one
a
is
task.
the public one that you can buy tickets to. So that's the world's hilliest half marathon. So that was 13.1 in Maine.
Got it.
But similar concept. I think it was like 80 times up and down, which sucked because like.
How many of these have you done now?
4.
4.
And I'm doing one in May. In Rome. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Rome?
Rome, Georgia. Sorry.
Oh, I was like, oh, get out of here.
Yeah, the Coliseum steps. Now.
Oh, that would be sick. I wonder if they'd let. No, they
No.
wouldn't.
No,
I know they
they'd
wouldn't.
probably crumble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially under you.
yeah, yeah. Back in the day, about a year ago, whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna find that photo of you crying and put on every thumbnail for the
Yeah.
podcast. That's gonna just be your.
I would love that. Make sure to tag Sauna Poppy.
Has your strength gone down since you've lost all this weight and started running so much?
Surprisingly, not as much as I thought it would have.
Uh-huh.
Especially my legs. Like I thought it would have been really hard to maintain it, but
Yeah.
I think my upper body, like my bench, I benched so much in college, and I just had such a beefy foundation of that movement. That's all I care. I mean, every guy's like, well,
Yeah.
So I had
bench.
just such a foundation there that I can hold on to relatively well, but not as much as I thought. But I think it's more the training intensity that's hard, because you get over 10 miles, like you're pretty much gassed for the day, and you're not training before that. You're not gonna lift
Right.
before
Yeah.
that.
Unless you're, like James, in which case you lift and then go do it.
Yeah, it's
So
tough.
you said you pull 6, you bench 4. What do you squat? What's your 3?
I'm probably around 5. Yeah, but my
1,500 pounds.
I mean,
wow.
I'm probably not right now. My knee is jacked, but I think my squat was always weaker because in college I did have knee surgery, so I never really I didn't feel comfortable going heavy,
No.
and I didn't have the knowledge of why I should have been. It
Sure.
just felt like, oh, my knee kind of hurts. Don't do anything. That was kind of the thought.
Right.
So
Isn't that funny how that's changed too?
Yeah.
Like how, especially knees, specifically knees.
Mhm.
There's all the new knee over toe techniques that everyone's
Yeah.
implementing. It's like, oh, you hurt yourself. Well, okay, we got to still move.
the over toe guy crushes marketing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not like the concepts are like anything revolutionary. And
No.
range of motion makes a ton of sense,
Mhm.
implemented in a ton of ways, but he's just really props him. He's taken it and really packaged it well, and
Oh, yeah.
it helps a lot of people. But people are like, it's speaking of culty. I mean, they are all in on it.
Oh, I know. I know.
They're like, have you heard of knees over toes? I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Like, come
It's
on,
not
man.
his thing. You do
Like, they'll
realize
send
that.
it to me.
It's-
I had knee surgery, and people messaging me. I'm like, have you heard about this? I'm like, trying to be nice, but come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard
And that's the thing too. I mean, it when you were a high level athlete, they were doing that. I mean, it's not like it was anything new. He, like you said, he packaged it very well. He got his message in front of the right people at the right time. He was on Rogan. So
And it's great stuff. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's just definitely makes sense. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
But I guess communication is what matters.
absolutely. And marketing. How's that gone with you? I mean, you're obviously marketing. You've got an incredible presence online, your social media.
Yeah.
When did you said you started doing
Yeah.
that in December?
Yeah. So, I mean, I had a decent following because, just being around people in events and in sports and
Yeah.
just being
Pro
an
athlete.
Yeah. So, but I never took it seriously. And like I said, if I'm being honest with myself, I can tell myself all these different stories, but
Mhm.
I just didn't have the self-confidence to put it out there. It's vulnerable, especially with education type videos where
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
talking and people come for your throat sometimes. But I remember distinctly in November at that same event that I couldn't run the 6 miles. I had a conversation with my friend Jenna and Rob, and I was like, I'm thinking about starting to do educational content. I spoke about sleep I've spoken about it for about 7 years on and off. And I really wish I would have done this a long time ago, because now it's more mainstream and people are like, oh, all these people and I'm like, I mean, I've been speaking on it for a really long time. At 2018 probably.
But the bigger the platform, the more people hear it.
Exactly.
You could be the most knowledgeable cat in the
Exactly.
world.
And I
people
think
don't see it.
Yeah, I think it took me seeing some other people having success to just give me the confidence. But
Me too.
I've gotten great, gotten great feedback, and it's been awesome. And just getting messages of people that have been helped from different tips or tricks or different things I've said. It's been inspiring, and that's why I love it. I love educating people. I love talking about the science, and just I think it stemmed from, as a walk-on, I felt like I had to squeeze every ounce of performance from my body. And then my passion just became how do we optimize all these different things and feel as good as possible. So
Yeah.
And listening to you speak about it, I like how you simplify it for
Yeah.
people that aren't deep into the science.
yeah, because it's one of those things where I think the more people get deep in the weeds with the science, it can actually hinder people's sleep. And I think you'll see that over the next 5 years. The psychology of sleep is much more important than the data. Your relationship with your bedroom, your routine, your thoughts, all these different things play such a bigger role than knowing how much you sleep or your sleep cycles or all these
Wearing a
different
whoop
metrics.
strap and having all
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And a lot of
that
people
stuff-
have to take them off.
A lot of that stuff hurts people because
Yeah.
they get so into it. So what we do, with athletes specifically, is we use that in training. But when competition time comes, you take the whoop and the Oura ring off.
Yeah.
Because you got to let it rip. It doesn't matter. You got to get it done at that point. So there's no
Can't
need
get
to know.
depressed about how you didn't stay in REM like you should have
Right.
the night
Like,
before. You can't
like
be
if you don't
mad about it.
Yeah, if you don't come in at 98%, like you're just not try. If you have a bad recovery score, and people get so in their head, but placebo's absolutely real. If I could go in an athlete's app and change it to 100%, I would. But you can't.
Well, I stopped wearing mine too. I used to literally lie in bed at night and just think.
Right.
I wonder what it's gonna do, and just sit there and think about it. And I have a difficult time already. Yeah.
I get that question the most. Of like, I wake up at 3:00 in the morning, and I think about not being able to sleep. Like, what do I do? I'm like, the worst thing you can do is thinking about not being able to sleep.
Yeah.
They actually did a study on counting sheep, right? And because counting sheep brings such awareness to not being able to sleep, people took longer to fall asleep than if they did nothing. So the more you think about trying to sleep, the less you're going to sleep. Right. So the best thing you can do is, I always tell people, if you're laying there for 20 minutes, that's usually the threshold, and you can't sleep, get up and do something. Take your mind off it, because you'll get tired again.
Analysis paralysis, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have your Whoop on and you wake up and you have to pee, or for whatever reason, you're just like, damn it.
I know.
I must, like, dang it, this is not the one.
No, it is a sick hack thinking about it. This is not on my top 5, but this is like probably number 21. It's not, but it's cool. It's like, you can go on Amazon and get like LED rope lights for like $20 that are motion activated.
You can?
Yes. Oh yeah. And you can just put them under the edges of your bed, and then the motion activator right by your feet. And then when your feet hit the floor to go to the bathroom, that's just enough light in order to go to the bathroom and not turn all these lights on and start waking your brain up.
And it's red light, so you
can
adapt.
whatever color you want.
Adapt faster at night to red light.
I literally was just like today. It's almost if my phone knew we'd talk about this.
Yeah, probably.
You ever seen the ones? Yeah. You ever seen the ones that are in the toilet?
Yes.
The motion activated like red lights that are in your toilet. It's like even better.
Yeah.
It's like now it's because as a guy, I'll be honest with you, half the time I wake up in the night, I don't want to go into the toilet. I'll just pee in the shower.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't miss, and I don't really feel like trying.
Yeah.
So now,
All right. Remind me never to use this shower.
That's a really weird thing to say.
You said that like super casual. Just FYI, that's not the norm.
That's not normal. That's not. No one else does that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
no, never done that.
Like,
never
you know
done
that you guys, and we're like,
He wraps himself in the shower curtain like me, myself,
Dang
and
it.
It's like, I just pee right in the bed. I don't even want to get up. Sleep is super important to me.
If I get up, this is just gonna ruin the Whoop.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the
Right,
next
like I talked
iteration
about,
of the
priorities.
mattress.
Like your bed being wet is not that big of a
Not
priority.
sleep's
Yeah,
bigger.
tomorrow it'll get fixed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on melatonin?
Melatonin is interesting. It's I think it's one of the most controversial. I don't know if controversial is the word, but misled things in the United States. So one, a lot of countries, probably most countries, melatonin is a prescription drug. It's a hormone, just like testosterone or estrogen, and all these different things.
Yeah.
The other thing is it plays big roles in the body beyond sleep. It's not just about sleep, right? So like when you're younger as a kid, you produce more melatonin. It delays the onset of puberty. It's one of the mechanisms that happens. So
Wow.
it's not something to mess around with casually. The fact that it's just in the aisles all over the place.
Got gummies for kids.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts to me when you start messing with hormones for kids.
Because you're messing with their puberty development.
I'm messing with that. I mean, it's a systemic thing that honestly, we have some idea what it does, but not a full spectrum of what's going on.
Oh, that's
there's a lot to learn. And the other thing with that is they did a study on U.S. melatonin supplements, and the study came back, and the dosage was from negative 85% to negative 85% to 450% of the dose listed on the bottle, meaning 85% less than listed, all the way up to 4.5 times as much listed on the
Oh
bottle.
my goodness.
Because there's no regulation.
No.
Wow.
So melatonin can be useful. We do recommend it. There can be uses like when you travel time zones, like if you have international meet or something, competition, and that's what it's used for. It's a circadian rhythm triggering hormone.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happens to people is they take it when they want to go to bed. Like let's say they can't sleep and it's 11 p.m. and they take melatonin. It shifts their circadian rhythm back because melatonin gradually starts getting produced earlier in the night until you fall asleep. Whereas you take it late, now it shifts your circadian rhythm later, so you could have a harder time the next night because you're shifting it with that.
Just like sort of like with alcohol, you say you get your REM sleep late.
No, like your relationship, like your hormone production of like your cortisol, your melatonin, and your relationship with like light and when you normally go to bed, like that circadian rhythm, your biological clock gets shifted later when you take that melatonin later. That's like what's signaling it. Whereas when you have the natural production, it's this nice gradual curve.
Yeah.
It doesn't like spike up and down. Whereas when you take that's the other thing is when you take a product, they found that it can spike it like well above physiological norms and then it comes back down. So anytime you're going outside of the,
it's just best not
it's
to.
It's not a negative. It's always good to work with a sleep doctor, and they'll have people use it. They'll have all sorts of things, but talk to obviously a medical professional, but they'll rarely have you stay on it. And it's not something to just grab. It's not like, you know, trying a new candy bar in Walgreens. Like, don't just grab a sleep supplement with a whole bunch of melatonin. The dosing can be like some are like 10 milligrams. Like, that's a massive dose.
Yeah.
Is there any supplement you recommend or that you not that you recommend or that you use for a substitute to melatonin?
Like magnesium threonate can be great. You know, that was a magnesium that was specifically developed to cross the blood-brain barrier by some neuroscientists. Some chamomile tea extract can be useful. Some of the active ingredients in chamomile tea can be useful. Theanine can be useful.
CBD
is a mixed bag. Like, because THC, actually, surprisingly, even though the compounds are nothing alike, like alcohol and THC, similar effects on REM sleep.
On REM sleep,
and a lot of people who smoke a lot, they'll be like, I never dream when I smoke, because the REM sleep when you're having the majority of your dreams. Yeah. And then when they don't smoke, they have crazy dreams because they're trying to make up for it. Same things that happen when people have alcohol withdrawals. People who are alcoholics, when they come off, a lot of times they'll have to take medication because they have insane, vivid
nightmares.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Because they've deprived their brain of REM sleep.
It's never been dreaming. Yeah. It's a good thing to dream because you realize that you reached like crazy REM sleep. Yeah.
And people ask that, like, it doesn't mean if you don't remember it that you're not getting it, but for the most part, hopefully you remember some, you at least know what's going on. But if you have something going on, it's also like fairly obvious. So you can tell, you know, it's not like a sleep issue sneaks up on you, but I think people, they're not aggressive enough in the treatment of it or talking to a doc because, like, especially sleep apnea, right? Like, sleep apnea is not something to mess around with.
That's probably the worst sleep condition, would you say? I mean,
I mean, like
sleepwalking,
narcolepsy, or like, you know, insomnia even is nuts. But
epilepsy too.
I don't think there's one clinical psychiatric disorder that doesn't list sleep disturbances as a symptom.
Fascinating.
So it's kind of like chicken and the egg, right? But, you know, it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
What about inositol? Does that help with sleep?
Yeah, for sure.
A what?
Inositol?
What's that?
That's derived from a grapefruit usually.
Inositol?
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's just it's like a supplement that's very calming. It'd be useful. Some good data on it. It's not habit forming. That's like a stack. Those things I was talking about, like that.
And magnesium, right?
Magnesium, chamomile tea extract, which is like aptogenin.
Learned that from Dr. James up there, who follows you. Do you know who that is?
I'm sorry, who?
Yes.
Dr. James Dinek and Antonio. His name is hard to say. Dr. James. He was the one who.
Oh yeah, you showed me that guy.
He does some great stuff. There's some awesome people out there. I mean, obviously what Huberman's doing is unbelievable and just really cool. One of my best friends, Ken Rideout. So he's like he's the top marathoner over 50. And so we have a training group, and I do the strength conditioning side, and so his manager of his podcast, he's the host of The Fight with Teddy Atlas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then his manager also manages Huberman. It's just been wild to hear the stories of, like, from when he started to like where he is now. And it's cool, super cool. I mean, I'd probably give it credit to Joe Rogan. Joe, I feel like, he brought on really amazing guests and people in the academic world that would probably never have a platform or the ability to spread some of that knowledge, and really kind of allowed the public, or like gave the public a taste of some of this deeper wellness and longevity stuff. Especially
if they were ever controversial.
Right.
So, Rogan would give them a platform, but no one else would.
Where usually no one would bring in these neuroscientists, and then all of a sudden you kind of paved the way, and then boom, you know, you have people that are doing amazing things, and it's cool that society is like open to it now. Because 5 years ago, people would be like, this is way too much.
Have you listened to this week's Huberman? It's on the Neuralink.
I have not yet, but
It's wicked.
Am 50% super stoked to listen to that, 50% super scared.
Oh no, it's scary.
I'm more scared about AI than that, though, to be honest with you.
You sleep with an AI.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna get like AI, like my mattress is gonna kill me. That's
right. It just folds. It's just
boom. Yeah.
It doubles as a coffin.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. You guys know the movie Prometheus?
Yeah.
The cylinders, like, so when it got shipped, like
that they sleep in to travel. You talking about in Prometheus?
No, when they go into the cave and they're on the ground, they have like the black goo in
yeah,
there.
the weapon.
That's what the pressurized air things look like underneath the mattress.
Oh,
And I was
great.
Like, this is it. As soon as I heard AI, now I'm seeing these little cylinders. I'm like, I've seen this before.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They do make a bed. I've seen it before. It turns into a fallout shelter. So like when you're sleeping, if
What?
there's a major earthquake, and let's say you're in a high rise or something, it will open
You're
up
in a high
and
rise.
close.
It doesn't matter what you do. But
Yeah, and it will just if there's a fire, anything, it's fireproof. I mean, it's
That
nuts.
sounds like such a
And you
great
can be
thing.
sleeping and not even know that it's happened, but it will enclose you.
I don't love that.
I don't love that at all.
Caskets do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a fire and I'm trapped in my bed.
Or-
F that, man. I want a shot to get out.
Someone that like hates you just brings a lighter and then yeah, it's like,
It won't let me out.
What if you sit up too?
dude,
Just decapitate.
tell me that wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, that's fear number one.
Yeah.
Oh, to be trapped in your own mattress while your
Yeah, I
house
got stuck in a
burns to the
horrible-
ground around you.
I felt like that on the plane today. It's just I was in a horrible seat. I can't even imagine what that would
Were you
be
in the
like.
middle?
No, I was on the. Well, I had the knee surgery, right?
Uh-huh.
So I had like some upgrade vouchers, like first class upgrade vouchers. Used it, didn't work for whatever reason. Show up, they don't have a seat for me. So I'm in the window. It's my left knee. I'm on the right side window in regular back of the plane, and my knee was just like I wanted to cut it off halfway through the flight.
This reminded me of, because when you said your knee in on the plane, you watch The Office?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember when he's in first class and his knee is sticking out
Yeah.
in the aisle? He's like, I can't see because I am in a... and the lady hits him with the tray.
It's so good. That is the best show ever.
Oh, it's one of them. Has to be.
I love it.
Todd, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah,
that was
man.
a lot of
That
fun.
was great.
Appreciate it.
Where would people go to find you if they want to learn more about this?
Yeah, Todd Anderson 42. I'm on Instagram the most, and I try to reply. You know, I love helping people out. So even if you have general sleep questions, I'm more than happy to help you guys out. And then the Dream Recovery. So dreamrecovery.io. Super excited about it. Launches Friday. I don't know when this will drop, but
Couple weeks.
we'll do a
Yeah.
Discount code. Like we'll do 15% off on all the products if anybody's listening out there. So you can put it in the link or whatever.
Very cool.
Perfect. Very cool.
And we'll communicate on
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that stuff. So.
For sure.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah, I guess we'll end it there.
Call it there.
Sick.